Next item on our agenda is the monthly budget report. Deputy Superintendent Scott Jones.
Good morning. This is Deputy Superintendent of Operations Scott Jones. The USBE remains financially solvent and able to meet all of its commitments and obligations for state fiscal year 20. As you know, we're in the first month of the next year and also through year-end close activities. So the report that you see in your backups is for the May period 11 from last year. But is an indicator of our ability to again meet all of our obligations and financial responsibilities. So next month we'll update the board, most likely through the finance committee, on our year-end close activities and where we've landed as far as any carry forward balances or any issues or concerns with our closure for state fiscal year 20. Subject to any questions or concerns by any of the board members, that completes this item. Chair Cummins.
Board Member Lear.
Come on. Just a minute.
Did she have a question, ma'am? This is Scott. Can't hear her.
Board Member Lear, do you have a question? Board Member
Okay,
Lear,
there I am. Sorry, are you past that?
Yeah, go ahead. Ask your question.
You're breaking up. So, but I also couldn't unmute. Sorry, Scott. I wondered. This is a little bit of an aside, but do you have a final number on the 2021 WP yet?
We do know that the WPU value was increased by 1.8%. Is that what you're asking, ma'am, or what? Or do you need the amount of the WPU value?
So what is the value?
Yeah, let me. I believe it's 3,596, but Patrick or Deborah will have to let me know. I don't have my sheet in front of me. So, but it increased by 1.8%. So let me just validate that for you, and I'll get that number to you, the exact precise number.
That's helpful. Thank
you. Okay.
Board Member Cindy Davis. Board Member Cindy Davis.
Sorry. I just wanted to know on the WPU, there was the increase in the WPU and then the decrease of the WPU, but that also resulted in a loss of property taxes. So I guess my question is to Deputy Superintendent Jones, how does that loss of the property taxes, does it impact the WPU, or does that property tax auto adjustment impact something else?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, so just to go back to, so the amount of the WPU is indeed $3,596 to Board Member Lear's question. For your question, Board Member Davis, I might have to, so it would impact, property taxes are kept at the district level, right? So, I mean, are you, as far as the proceeds go, on the effect of the WPU or in a reduction in property taxes, or I'm not sure I understand your question. I apologize.
That I was just wondering how that impacted the WPU, because now there's this automatic increase of property taxes with the increase of the WPU. Am I understanding that correctly?
Scott, are you able to respond?
Sorry, it's taking a long time to come off of mute here.
Yes,
So
sorry.
sorry about that. So the value of the WPU related to the property tax, I think what you're asking about is there a certain level of, an increase to the value of the WPU, where if you recall, there was the legislation with, in the amount, it was basically a cap at 4%. Is that what you're asking? Where the value of the WPU was increased by 1.8% only, I don't think that, there is impacts on it, on the property tax. So, I think is your question related to the impacts on the TSSA, ma'am, or? Am I still on? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. She's unmuting. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, okay, so that is where the impact is on the TSSA. When the WPU adjusts and the property tax adjusts, it impacts in through the TSSA, is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry I didn't understand.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions, Scott, so if you want to move forward.
Yeah, well, ma'am, if there's no other questions, then I'll move it. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, just a little bit. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on. So I'll move into the discretionary funds report. Jeff, if you could pull that up in the backup. I think Jeff's still driving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go. So I do want to spend a little bit of time, and yeah, if you could make it bigger especially for me, Jeff, since I'm old and don't see very well. If you look at the upper right-hand quadrant, you'll see that we don't have any remaining state funds or general funds. But as you go below into the main body, so to speak, of it, we give you the status of all the different projects and how much funding is remaining for those particular projects. So if you'll scroll, I think so the board still has $174,998.98 in your contingency fund. Okay, so if you'll scroll to the right, Jeff, I think you see that balance that's remaining there. Then if you'll go back to the left, because it's just on my screen. So your legal contingency fund, this particular available, but I wanted to make this clear because I've had a couple of board members ask me this. There is funding that you approved as part of your budget for legal actions, for legal matters, right? So that was done last month. It's not here, but you did approve that as part of your budget, and that's in the board's budget, not in your discretionary account. It's in your board's budget. So then if you scroll back to the right, there's the school fees task force, which is an ongoing multi-year project that we're still executing money on. So you see those remaining balances in what's titled the remaining column. Thank you, Jeff. So if you go back to the left, then, I won't go now line by line. I think I've oriented board members well enough to this. The main point of this, though, is if you go back up to the upper right-hand quadrant, Jeff, there's still quite a bit of money remaining in the federal mineral lease balance. It's $182,192.80. And federal mineral lease money is excellent money that can be used for research and development type activities. So I just wanted to point that out. Again, as we start into the next fiscal year and we start our year-end close activities, we just want to make board members aware that there's money available. Obviously, we have to use it allowably, but there's ongoing projects and that there's other sources of funding that you could utilize in your own discretionary account and in the board's budget itself. Now, tomorrow in Finance Committee, so I ask all board members to please take a look at the Finance Committee agenda, because we specifically posted all of this money is your budget. It's your USB's budget. Within your overall budget is a specific budget called the board budget, right? And in that is where we have identified discretionary funds line items for your use. Now we want to make sure that we get past year-end close here. We close that out. But as we progress towards what we anticipate to be a special session, that's where we'll need you guys to review that specific part of your budget. Again, it's posted to the agenda item titled State Fiscal Year 21 Budget in the Finance Committee agenda of tomorrow, so that you can really start to look at all the money that's available. And then, Deborah and Patrick and I can obviously advise you on whatever restrictions are. But my point being that we need to start looking closely, and we'll do it as part of the overall process with the legislature, coming out of the July 15th tax filings into our August meeting. Because simultaneously, we're also going to start the process of looking at what your requirements will be, or what, the process that we take each year for development of your requests or going into what will be the 2021 general session. So there's going to be a lot of activity between now and preparation for the August meeting. So if you'll, focus on your discretionary balances here, let us know going into August if you want to make any changes to the funding uses here or add additional projects. Also, please, again, review the State Fiscal Year 21 budget agenda item in Finance Committee. We're going to perpetually update you and keep you just right on glide path and in close coordination with all the different activities that we're expecting to occur, especially after the July 15th tax filing deadline. There is, so that, Madam Chair, that concludes my update on the monthly budget report and the discretionary funds report, pending any questions or concerns by board members.
Board Member Lear.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Superintendent. Could the board, I'm not very informed or smart about what those discretionary funds and or the research, etc. funds could be used for. That might be helpful information for other board members, but in the moment, could it be used, and I don't even know comparative amounts right now, but could it be used where if the legislature cut funding for certain programs just recently, could that money be used for those kinds of programs if the board chose?
Ma'am, yeah, so looking at the upper right-hand quadrant, federal mineral lease money, it's pretty broad. The definition is for research and development. So it's a pretty broad application, where you could use it. The one thing that I always caution all board members on is the use of what amounts to one-time money for ongoing requirements or concerns. So conceivably, yes. I mean, we, depending on what it is, we would obviously do our due diligence, have legal look at it, make sure that it was an allowable use of those funds. But to answer your question, yes, it's a possibility. But, I'd always add in that caveat of, making sure that we're always aware of one-time uses of funds, or, because there's other state funds that could be used or ongoing that we could move around. So I appreciate the question. And hopefully I answered yours.
And you did, but to follow up quickly, if the money is not used, won't it be swept, or do we get to keep it?
Yeah, no, ma'am. So, fortunately, a lot of our money is what's designated as non-lapsing balances, right? Or non-lapsing. So we can carry forward it year after year. Okay. Yes, there is the risk. There is always the risk of it being swept. But, in the 5 years I've been here, we've done pretty well of demonstrating to the legislature that, we're not about just spending money just to spend money, and that we do come up with plans. And what you're seeing right in front of you right now is a plan for use of funding. And that's why I'm just pausing, though, to remind you that you still have some amount of money remaining, especially in the FML category, the federal mineral lease category. So, to be straight and honest, yes, there's always the risk of it being swept, but we haven't experienced that in, and Deborah can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think obviously, due to this COVID situation, we did have balances swept, but those were given back to us, to help plug or to help us keep on state fiscal year 21.
Thanks. That's helpful. I'm thinking if we have money in these desperate times, we should look for ways to get it to LEAs. That's just a very general thought. So thank you for your information.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
There are no other questions from board members. So does that complete your report?
Yes, ma'am. That concludes this agenda item.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.